Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview in the EA conference series. Today, I am with Deva Green. Not only is Deva, the daughter of Jeffrey Wolf Green, the founder of Evolutionary Astrology, but Deva is an accomplished author of several evolutionary astrology books, including her recent book, The Moon and Its Nodes in Evolutionary Astrology, and an incredibly, as far as I've experienced, humble and deeply steeped in these teachings soul. So I'm excited to share a little bit, of what we're getting ready for this conference. And a part of preparing this conference is beginning with the basics, right? We're coming back to the foundation of this legacy, what evolutionary astrology is. And it's almost like a return to the evolutionary journey of the soul, in that we're all coming together to begin with what is this paradigm. And Dave, I'd love to hear for you, what has that meant for you, the Pluto paradigm, and what do you think of?
That's a great question. And for me personally, how I've experienced that and what that's meant for me is really being able to measure um, growth in areas where I'm reverting to old security patterns. So it's like a way to measure yourself in terms of where you're growing and where it feels good to go, and areas that are holding you back, or areas where you revert to. And so seeing that paradigm really gives a clear roadmap in terms of, oh, I'm being drawn to this because, and I'm feeling secure here, even though I want to move past it because. So it really gives that foundational question, or answers that foundational question, why, which is the essence of EA.
Yeah, I think why is one of those powerful questions that we learn as a child. Like, I remember asking my father, why, Dad, why was that, and, with your father being Jeffrey Wolf Green, I wonder how that was for you to grow up in evolutionary astrology and then really be now as an adult taking this lineage as your own, work and your own calling.
Yeah, I mean, my experience it was always there, and it was always something around and in my environment. And then when I was ready, or for me personally, it was that the more I became kind of jaded or wanting more than what was on the surface. I mean,
Mm,
I did a lot of kind of mainstream, or, just what was around, and looking into this and looking into that, very Gemini like, and just didn't feel the substance. And so every time I wanted substance, or I really wanted to understand in a deeper way what was going on in my life or the people around me, it just drew me back to my home. It drew me back to what was in my environment.
mm,
And so it was, for me, it was a matter of really getting seeped in it when I felt ready. And then using that in the way that was best suited for me. I love working with children, and I've used it as a tool to understand their development and how to best guide them on their journeys as well.
oh, that's really beautiful. Maybe someday we'll get to do a Pluto paradigm in childhood development.
Oh, that'd be
That would,
awesome.
that would be great.
Yeah.
I do think of the whole progression of the soul and the evolution of the soul. Like, we start as a natal chart, like that natal chart is a little tiny baby, right? And
Yeah.
then eventually, here I am, a- as an adult. That natal chart is still the blueprint of the soul that I am, even though I'm not operating as a child. So, from your perspective, how, how have you seen the the questions that you apply to the natal chart informed by kind of understanding that evolutionary development.
Right. It's from my perspective, it's really been helpful in terms of understanding the individuality of each soul and understanding their context first. And that's the thing that's really helped me more than anything else, is to understand in an objective way wh- why each soul would go this way or that, why their development is this way or that, because then it can really give you the tools to be a facilitator in the way that's best suited for any given soul or any given individual. It's by understanding that individual context first.
Like, why this person struggles with, you know, self-sabotage, or this person, their pattern is more inclined towards a lot of self-doubt, or,
Right.
right. Yeah. Yeah, that I think, in terms of for people who are totally new to evolutionary astrology, would you be able to give us a little overview of what what the ground floor is that we're working with from the soul's perspective?
Yeah. In terms of the Pluto paradigm and the ground floor, you really start with Pluto as understanding where any given soul is coming in from previous lifetimes, where they'll gravitate to coming into the life. So it's a way of understanding um, what the desires of the past have been and why those desires. So that gives you a baseline. And then the polarity point, from which I understand, is the cause of incarnation itself.
Mm,
It's the purpose for the current lifetime, the next steps. And that can give you the baseline for understanding how or why the soul will be gravitating towards that polarity point and for what reasons. It's a way to balance out the past, it's a way to metamorphose the limitations from the past and to re energize or to recircuit. It can bring that natal Pluto to a higher level, so to speak, or com- uh, a circuit of energy, so to speak. The natal Pluto then metamorphosizes to its highest through moving towards polarity. So seeing those two first in terms of the baseline where the soul comes in, and the polarity point as being the cause of the life or the next steps. You can start with that as a foundational point.
I find that really interesting, even in just thinking about Pluto right now in the sign of Capricorn. So what you're saying is then that all the souls who are desiring to be born right now, the desire for incarnation is coming through Cancer, right? Through this moon ruled feminine, like emotional quality. What would that polarity point be pointing us to in terms of all these children that are coming on the planet now?
Oh, and that's a great question. And it all comes down to the individual and generational application. That
Mm,
as a generation, they're all moving, or the intention is to move towards that Cancer archetype. And then, of course, there's going to be an individual natal chart, which would speak to the individual expression. So, from my understanding, in a general sense, the Cancer polarity point really speaks to understanding the emotional body, or centering in what's going on the internal versus the external. Um, as a generation, I've experienced that many of these Pluto and Capricorn souls come in with a deep understanding of conditioning,
mm,
how society works, and wanting to establish their authority. And the Cancer polarity point speaks to the shift in a general sense from that external to the internal.
mhm. Yeah, being able to really feel and recognize like that that huge, right? We have a huge Pluto and Capricorn generation that's coming to an end, but then each individual and unique soul expression based on the natal chart is also going to depend on the houses, the signs, the nodes of the moon. And would you talk just a bit more for those who don't know much in this way? I know you wrote a whole book on the moon and its nodes in evolutionary astrology, but like how the Pluto relationship to the lunar nodes is a part of the basic paradigm.
Absolutely. That the nodes, the south node of the moon, um, or sorry, the moons are lunar. So the north and south node correspond or connect to the self image of the past and the emerging or forming self image of the future, the past egocentric structure and the evolving current egocentric structure. So essentially, Pluto has been integrated in a conscious way through the south node.
Mm.
It's being integrated through the previous egocentric structure. And similarly, the polarity point will be integrated through the north node as the evolving egocentric structure, with the planetary rulers of the north and south node as their modes of operation, or how that will then be integrated. So the paradigm as a whole, you look at Pluto, first you look at natal Pluto, and then you look at the south node to see how Pluto was integrated in a conscious way, the prior self image. And then you look at the planetary ruler of the south node to see how the soul has integrated that south node, or
Mm.
how that was facilitated by its ruler. And then, from what I've learned, that can be called the trinity of the past. It's the core of the root, the core of the soul's emotional body,
Mm.
and where the soul will gravitate to, coming into the life, as a natural point of gravitation. It's where the soul is left off and where it will pick up again. And then looking at the polarity point, the North Node and its planetary ruler, is the trinity of the future. It's how the current evolutionary intentions for the life are integrated through the forming or evolving egocentric structure or self image, with the planetary ruler facilitating that. This is the trinity of the future.
Mm. And that the journey that we take from, you know, that strong or conditioned past um, to this evolving, self that is propelled, in my understanding, from desire and right our relationship to resistance or cooperation.
That's really the bottom line. That's right.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I am thinking of like, oh yeah, kind of when I come into, there's these hard worn patterns that are kind of like stiff muscles, the things that we do all the time. I've been thinking about this a lot relative to Saturn and Capricorn and habits, what's habituated in our life. But, the prior incarnations have that same energy. It's almost, they're so familiar to us that we don't even think that they are us. They just are the identity. I'm
Right.
hearing you. And the expressions of the evolution of our soul often are those desires which we may even avoid or resist, because that would require letting go of that past identity, right? And then would you say that Pluto would also reflect um the power that people have in this lifetime relative to those evolutionary desires?
Yeah, absolutely. From my understanding, Pluto can be a point of strength or where we have inbuilt capacities brought in from the past.
Yeah. I think Pluto gets a bad rap sometimes of being like the shadow or like this, difficult karmic piece in our life. But, to really understand that even that everything serves evolution and that at the bottom line, there is this desire. And I think one of the things that I, the reason I feel I can have the teachings of Jeffrey Wolf Green as like the guiding star in this work is because this idea that the bottom line desire is to return to source has been such a profound and healing thing for me to realize that everything, even the most difficult things in my life, even the things that I am constantly resisting and coming up against these patterns again and again in my life, they are the very things that would reunite me with source, like, or the very motivations, I guess, that I can find a lot of hope in. I'm wondering for you, Deva, what is the biggest thing that you've taken from evolutionary astrology that has become a part of your life that informs you today?
Yeah, the biggest takeaway is that um, to really see things from the other's perspective first. I mean, it's classic Pluto and Libra in the fifth house. And being able to really see the reverse side of things, or really being able to see from another's lens first, and be able to distance via the polarity point, or to see things in a more impersonal light, so that there can be so that the actualization intended in that fifth house Pluto can happen.
Mm.
If you It's like a way of, if you don't see that lens first, you just get stuck in the mud. Or I experienced just getting stuck in the mud. So being able to take that out and being able to see objectively, um uh, how the other side of the coin, and to not get drawn in on a personal level, but to be able to take that third person view from myself and from others around, so that there can then be sharing, or any counseling, or to be able to help myself or another person through, to take that third person lens first, that impersonal view first.
One of my favorite lines in the I Ching that is I'm reminded of, where it says, make use of seeing great people, and constancy bears fruit. Those two, my absolute favorite lines in the I Ching. And that idea, though, that like you're able to use this viewpoint, this paradigm, to really objectively look at the life from a soul perspective, from a different perspective. Is so many times I felt like the way I get stuck in the mud is like myopically feeling like I can't seem to resolve the problem. I can't seem to like bypass my own resistance or stay in a state of cooperation with life, as much as I'd love to. I feel like I wish I could evolve a little bit faster than I am, but evolution is a slow process. And I hear what you're saying about like just being given the gift of empathic perspective of the other as a way to be, and that offers just enough space to be able to get out of your own way is what I heard.
Right.
That's great. Well, we are really excited for this conference. We're bringing together this group of amazing evolutionary astrologers, having you open our conference with this full workshop on the Pluto paradigm. I know you're going to be covering the paradigm like step by step and helping everyone understand through chart demonstration and hypothetical examples. There's so much, you know, all we have, what, how many billion unique souls on this planet? Like there's so much opportunity for learning. I wonder if there's anything that you've learned recently or that you've been thinking about recently that you want to share with us.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of EA or
Yeah.
I've really been thinking about the parent-child dynamic a lot,
Yeah.
and really through Saturn Moon, through also seeing aspects to Saturn or the Moon, and how that facilitates your own soul journey into who you're meant to be. That you pick parents who either support or don't, for what reasons, but they're, in my view, I hate to take 100%. I never like to say it's 100%, but my goodness, it just seems like the childhood environment is such a stimulus or such a
Mhm.
accelerator for our own growth.
Yeah.
And we pick those circumstances so that we can mature and grow and solidify into who we're meant to be. And looking at the birth chart as a navigation point,
Mm.
um, how am I meant to navigate this situation or that, or to ground in, or to structure. And I feel so often that we have to find our own structure, or we can be given the best family environment, but in the end we need to really determine for ourselves what shape and structure we're meant to take.
Mm.
And that's Cancer Capricorn axis. So I've really been seeing that in the end it's like we have to be our own teachers, and we have to be our own roadmap, no matter how good it's been.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you were talking earlier about the Capricorn children, I have a Capricorn child who has Cancer Capricorn nodes, and really realizing that like that North Node for her is ruled by a moon, like, and so much of what we're dealing with is this in her and raising her is these lunar needs, and it's coming up against everything in me that is like also desperately trying to evolve as her mother. Oh, this is the part where I'm gonna cry.
Oh,
And I really can see like, um for sure, I think that children choose their parents. And so many people that I work with, you know adults who I'm reading a natal chart for, are struggling with their childhoods, as we all are. Like, I really do think that like we form an imprint in the first 1,000 days of our life, and then we're pretty much repeating,
yeah.
or cooperating with
Exactly.
imprint till the end. So I'm touched by your reflections of like, you know, how the Saturn moon relationship, we were talking before we came on the interview about our next series for the association and doing planetary pairs. And I'm thinking, oh man, maybe you should also do Saturn moon.
Oh, Saturn moon.
Well, more to come on that. But yeah, it's really a thing. And I think if we can understand our own childhood imprinting, how those dynamics are playing out in our lives now, And then from a soul perspective, why to begin with would I have these parents? Like, why to begin with would I have, the mother, father, or whoever the guardians were of that original evolutionary imprinting? Because man, those are the lessons that I want to get. And especially as I'm raising my own children and I have these beautiful souls that are in my care, and just this feeling of like, that's why I'm doing this work. Just I'm not even talking about the work of EA as much as like I came to this Pluto paradigm and to evolutionary astrology with the desire to heal and the motivation to understand what was happening in my life and be able to, and it's given me so much. And anyway, I'm so grateful to be here with you today. To me, it's just such an honor.
Well, thanks so much for sharing this time and space.
Yeah, thank you, Deva. For everyone who's wanting to join us, we have just a few days left before the early pricing on the conference ends. If you are an association member of the Jeffrey Wolf Green Association of Evolutionary Astrologers, you get $50 off the full conference weekend. There are individual passes to all of the lectures. So if you are just wanting to register for an individual class, you can do that. Otherwise, the full conference pass gets you access to the Pluto Paradigm workshop that Deva is leading us through, beginning sort of our kickoff community call, and we're laying down the foundation there. And that's on Friday. Then Saturday and Sunday, October 7th and 8th, are 2 full days of lectures from many different evolutionary astrologers. All the information is on the website. That is linked in the description of this video. And I hope that you'll join us. If you can't even join us live, you'll get the recordings and access to all the replays with the full conference pass. And thank you, Deva, for holding this work and this lineage and carrying the torch and being a part of our association team and all that you're doing and all the little children that you're tending with your love and care in your life. And yeah, we're so grateful to be on this journey with you. So thank
Thanks
you.
so much for the dedication, the conference, to the work. It really means a lot.
Thank you.